Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Report. No stream tonight, but we're going to take a look at some really important polling. This is a huge topic because I think it shows that Americans' opinions are changing really fast. I think today there is a new resolve in America, and resolve is different than hate. It's different than anger. It's a very useful emotion, and one that I think will cause some really major changes in America. Now, I said last week on War Room that I thought this Monday would bring a new America. And I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing a lot of action now out of the government, a lot of talk from Steve Miller and Kash Patel and JD Vance about the new things that they're going to do that, quite frankly, they probably should have already done some of. But we're not going to get too deep on the news. I'm pretty sure most of you are following it really closely, and you probably know more about this assassination than I do. Although I have to admit that the communications between Tyler and his lover seem a little fake. They seem a little too stiff or formal or whatever. I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on. But let's start with this. Brick, New Jersey, between 2,000 and 4,000 attendees at a Sunday night vigil for Charlie Kirk. I saw the local No Kings rally and I saw this vigil, and quite frankly, I like our odds. This was an absolutely incredible event, and apparently these are all over the states to the tune of hundreds and thousands. And it's not just last weekend, it's this weekend coming up. Tyler Boyer's talking about an event in Arizona where tens of thousands of people are going to turn out and they're going to have registration papers. Scott Pressler is going to show up. This is a horrible event, a tragedy, but there is a silver lining to this cloud. And that is the Republican Party has been given a gift here. They need to give these previously unaffiliated voters something to vote for. I call on Michael Johnson and John Thune, show up together in public, give an address, talk about how the Republican Party will no longer stand for violent rhetoric and the steps that it's going to go through to reform our agencies, focus them on actual terrorist and violent threats to Americans, and keep America safe. But let's check in on the crazies quick before we get to the polling. Our politics is all over the place. And listen, if you've never been to Reddit, first, keep your kids off Reddit. If you let them on as a teenager, they are going to be trans or have an OnlyFans on the day they turn 18. It's an absolute disgusting place. I absolutely bashed on it today on InfoWars. People don't understand how pervasive this site is and how, in my opinion, it's one of the key pieces of the radicalization pipeline. But I go here a lot because it tells you what is going on in the heads of the absolute loony radical left. You really can't get it from Blue Sky. Too many nature pictures and furries over there. But look at what's going on. Look at their hot posts. Department of Justice deletes study showing domestic terrorists are most often right wing. They're still trying to push the lie that this guy in Utah was a right winger. It's so ubiquitous and pushed so far and wide that people will be wrestling with this lie for years and years. Kash Patel says no credible info that Epstein trafficked young women to others. Oh, okay. Back on to Epstein. Maybe we should go after you. Trump threatens ABC reporter asking about free speech. CNN commentator fears Trump could outlaw the Democrat Party. Absolutely a concern. They're really going hard with this fascist angle. I think one of the problems and the reason that this will escalate things in America is that for a very long time, the right has been, let's just say, bottling things up. And I don't think that this has uncorked hate. I think it's uncorked righteous fury, but it's almost as if people have been given a permission slip to, let's just say, put tolerance on the back burner. And I think that's a good thing because often resolve is a very, like I said, useful emotion. And it's almost like the Democrats have been looking for a very long time for evidence that the right wing, which it calls fascist, is actually fascist. And this is probably enough fodder for them to keep the spin and lies going. Will it reach all of their voters? No, I think the Democrat Party is fractured right now, but it will reach their core radical left loonies. It's a problem. House Republicans threaten to cancel anyone who disparages Charlie Kirk. Now, I don't know what they're talking about here, but a lot of people are getting fired. That's not the same as being canceled. I remember the Democrat Party canceling people for, let's see, supporting Trump, asking questions about vaccines, questioning the integrity of the 2020 election. What we're talking about here is people being fired for saying absolutely hateful and violent things. Things that maybe 30 or 40 years ago, their neighbors would have said, "Are you sure you really want to say that?" And they, "Oh, okay, yeah, you're right." People in a well functioning society don't talk like this. And obviously, these people have been indulged too long or have been on the internet too long where there aren't consequences to their actions. But hello, there are consequences to ghoulish actions. Trump says he consider banning LGBTQ pride flags in an alarming Oval Office exchange. Now he's coming for the LGBTQ movement. See, it's all fear mongering. I don't think he said that stuff, to be honest with you. If you know what they're talking about, post it in the comments. Trump lashes out at a reporter asking about his family cash grabs. Quiet. They are dodging the Charlie Kirk stuff. They're trying to undermine Trump. I think they're pretty scattered right now. But if you paid attention to today, there was a Kash Patel hearing in the Senate, and a lot of important stuff came out. This is probably, in my opinion, the most important, is that Chuck Grassley talked about Arctic frost, which was apparently an investigation that was an offshoot of Jack Smith's efforts. And among the list of many conservative organizations that were targeted by the FBI for investigation was Turning Point USA. So now, even though I believe Trump declared Antifa a terrorist organization in 2020, it would appear that the FBI was investigating Turning Point and not radical Antifa, trans, left wing terrorists. And this is why people have no trust in the FBI. Listen, I'd love to think that they're doing their best work right now, but this is the FBI that has burned us over and over and over again, being used essentially as a Gestapo. And until it's proven to me that there has been major accountability, which should be accompanied by thousands and thousands of fires, some kind of explanation about why and who and what they did wrong, I will assume that it's still incompetent, co opted, and corrupt. And honestly, I think Kash Patel is trying really hard, but it's a tough job, and we are not seeing what I think we need to see out of it. But there was this exchange. Senator Ted Cruz encourages FBI Director Kash Patel to not just go after those who aided and abetted Charlie Kirk's assassin, but to follow the money of those funding left wing violence in America. The violence we are seeing is not purely organic. I agree 100%. We all know this, though. Why has nothing been done? Will say Kash Patel has said that there are now 1,700 cases investigating domestic terrorists. I don't know if they were in existing cases, if they were all recently opened, or if just a small portion of those were recently opened. I don't know if those are grandmas who are on the steps of the Capitol building, or if those are really finally people on places like this, anti-fascists of Reddit. That's right. They are right out in the open talking about overthrowing the fascism of the right. There are a lot of members of this subreddit. I think it gets like 40,000 visitors a week, a lot of engagement. And yeah, they talk about exactly what you think they would. Charlie Kirk was a Nazi and a stochastic terrorist. Here's proof. These are the people that were likely, at least partially or tangentially involved in radicalizing the Utah shooter. Although my understanding is he was also part of an actual group affiliated with the World Economic Forum who was out there arming queers in Utah. That's the one that deleted their social media footprint like an hour after the assassination. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Like I said, it seems like the right has gotten new resolve, and the left is still committed to the same kind of lies that have increasingly a weaker and weaker grasp. But before we get to the crosstabs of the new polling, let's just take a look at this. Now, this is updated as of September 11th, and we don't yet have the next data point, which will drop on the 18th of September. But you can already see that as of the last couple of weeks, there's a little bit of a widening trend in right direction, wrong track. Right direction is drifting down slightly. It was at the mid 40s, 45% just last week, just a couple of polling days ago. And wrong track is ticking up. But the movement we've seen in the daily numbers, which again has not yet been captured on this chart, is that in a 3-day polling period, right direction has plunged from 45% to 40%. And 40% is the lowest number that we've seen in Donald Trump's second term. See this period here? This was the inauguration. It's been above 40 that entire time. We've seen nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. Now, this isn't all of our polling history, but it's the last 5 years. And there was a period back in early 2020 before COVID hit where people were pretty happy, but nothing like Trump 2.0. This has been an entirely new paradigm in polling. Because Trump got elected with the mandate, because the Biden administration was as bad as it was, people thought the country was going on the right direction more than at any time in our polling history. And that has changed. I do think that tomorrow or the next day, we might see for the very first time a 40 handle in Trump's second term. Now, his approval rating is flat to up. It was -3 yesterday, it's -2 today. So this isn't a signal about Donald Trump and the way he's handling this. This is predominantly Republicans and independents who are looking around just in the last few days and saying something is seriously wrong. It's worse than I thought. This country is actually on the wrong track. I thought things were okay, but things are actually really messed up. Will there be a bounce? Will it come back? I don't know. It could be a permanent change. Again, I think that this has deeply affected Americans. We've talked previously about the polling, how, listen, it's a really deeply held belief, whether you support capital punishment or not. And usually we get a number where roughly half support it and about 35% don't. The last time it was 49 to 36. That was 5 years ago. That's net plus 13. But in our Arena Zarutska polling, they wanted DeCarlos Brown executed by 60% to 20%. That's net plus 40, or almost a 30-point shift. And I think most of that shift probably happened recently. People are fed up. They don't like what's happening. They wanted Trump to fix it, but they're looking around, and I think increasingly they're seeing that these problems aren't going to solve themselves. Now, normally when we look at crosstabs, we spend a lot of time comparing the differences in the demographics. And what you're going to see here is there's not actually a lot of difference at all in the demographics. There's almost bipartisan unity on this particular issue set. And this was put into the field the day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, and it polled again Sunday and Monday night. And here we are with the results. How concerned are you about political violence in America? And out of the mouths of 1,100 US likely voters, 69% are very concerned. Another 21% somewhat. Do the math, we are talking 90% of America. If you've been following me, you know we really don't see 90 numbers. It's actually super rare to see something in the 80s. This is a really high level of concern. I don't even think like border security and rising prices had a 69% very concerned. This is a major problem. People are super concerned about violence. Only 1% not at all concerned. Another 7% not very concerned. So we're talking like more than 10 to 1. Absolutely insane. This is like literally everybody. And women are way more concerned, 92%, 75% very. Like look at across the age bracket, it's all pretty concerned. Older voters more, 83% very concerned, another 15% somewhat, 98%. 98%. Again, that just like doesn't happen. White, black, Hispanic, it really doesn't matter. Democrat and Republican, they are both in the 90s, except 74% of Democrats are very concerned and only 66% of Republicans. That's right. Even though a left-wing coup shot Charlie Kirk, Democrats are more very concerned about political violence in America than Republicans. Independents are right there along with the Republicans. Liberals and conservatives, pretty similar. Moderates, a little bit less than everybody else. I mean, it's literally completely across the board. Although Trump's strong approvers and Trump's strong disapprovers are most concerned. That's interesting. Most very concerned. This is definitely political tension. Absolutely. But recently, a gunman in Utah shot and killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. How likely is it that there will be more political violence in the next few months? 48% very likely. Another 37% somewhat likely. Combined total of 85%. Again, only 7% not likely, although there's more not sures. Obviously, it's tough to predict the future. Again, slightly more women. Again, hardly any age signal, race signal, and party signal. It's all the same. 87% of Democrats, 87% of Republicans. Everybody thinks there's going to be more killing, and everybody is very concerned. And as we know from November 2024, both sides thought the other side, by a majority, was going to commit violence after the election. This is all deeply held tension. This is not good stuff. Remember, 43% of America thinks a civil war is likely in the next few years. And then don't even get me started on the amount of sick people who think that burning Tesla dealerships is an appropriate form of protesting, and the number of people, 46% of liberals, for instance, who thought the murder of the United Healthcare CEO by Luigi Mangione was understandable. Which is more to blame for incidents like the recent shooting in Utah? 46% say heated political rhetoric. That is the plurality response. Only 28% say availability of firearms. Hey, Liz Warren and Chris Murphy, you're not getting the guns. Mental illness, 19%. And mental illness and access to firearms together is basically the same as heated political rhetoric. But look at the party signals here. 50% of Republicans, a majority, 41% of Democrats, a plurality, think it's heated political rhetoric. Independents, too. I mean, this is pretty much agreement. Like only 39% of Democrats think it's because this guy was able to get his hands on a gun. Now, maybe it's because they actually know it's a bolt action, or maybe they all instinctively know that something deeper is happening here. Does access to firearms get a majority? And I understand that responses number 2 and 3 might have split the vote here, but does it get to a majority among anyone? Not even Trump strong disapprovers, not even Kamala Harris voters. It is heated political rhetoric. Absolutely. But do you agree or disagree with this statement? This is a Donald Trump quote from his appearance on Fox News the morning after the assassination on September 11th. It's long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. Now, we didn't say it was a Trump quote, but massive majority of, it's like pretty much everybody agrees with this, 86%, 58% strongly. Now, it usually takes a concerned or not concerned question to get into the 90s. Agree or disagree questions just do not get there. And this one gets pretty close, 86%. I mean, only 8% disagreeing. So we're talking about, again, more than a 10-1. That's absolutely crazy. No gender signal, a little bit of an age signal. 18 to 29-year-olds are a little less likely to agree. It's only 81% of them. Not really a race signal, not a party signal at all. 53% of Democrats strongly agree with Donald Trump that it is about demonizing those with whom you disagree with, and that the media in America has to confront this fact. That's what's causing violence and murder. The demonization of opponents in the media. 61% of Republicans strongly agree. Another 28% somewhat, so 89%. 82% of independents agree. Every freaking person agrees. Even Kamala Harris voters, 86% of them. No matter how much you hate the media, it's not enough. So now tensions are rising. Everybody's afraid. They think there's going to be more political violence. But there is a reassuring way to read this. It's tough to look at these numbers. And again, obviously, a lot of people on the left are afraid that Republicans are going to shoot them because of this vilification. But it's really hard to look at these numbers and say to yourself, especially after that last question, well, all of those people on TikTok and on Facebook celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, delighting over the fact that there are now small children who will grow up fatherless, that those people are the majority of the Democrat Party. They are not. And the situation we're in is tricky. Republicans are very unified right now. They mostly believe the same things, want the same things, and yet where they're at is that their governance is split. The Republican Party is not interested in aggressively changing America like the MAGA movement has promised. And that's a problem. There will be a reckoning. On the Democrat side, their governance structure is completely in lockstep. They are going to keep resisting Trump. They're going to keep on with the rhetoric. They're going to keep increasing the temperature. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because that's what their backers want, or if they are literally ideological Marxist accelerationists, if they are seriously gunning for a civil war. And I guess we're going to see, because it looks like Trump is going to continue to roll out National Guard troops into blue cities. And that presents a problem for them. But on the left, their governance is completely lockstep, but their voters are fragmented. They don't all want Trump assassinated. They aren't all gleeful about this. They don't all want Tesla dealerships to burn down. And yet, time and time again, the places that they get their information, the algorithms that drive their news consumption, the communities, the moderators of the communities where they go for news and to exchange discourse, all of those places want blood. Thankfully, finally, it looks like we're going to see some action. I hope we see more action. I would love to see places like Reddit absolutely squirm under the microscope of the federal government. This isn't about free speech. This is about unlawful speech, radicalization, and essentially the creation of what appear to be distributed domestic terrorist cells. I mean, how would we know they're not without investigating them? We have the capability. If we can investigate every militia in the US and every grandma that ever set foot on the Capitol building, I think this one is well within our capability set. And again, I'll ask, why has this not already happened? If you've learned something, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Follow us on X at Rasmussen_poll and myself at Honest Pollster. You can watch our videos on YouTube at Rasmussen_poll and Rasmussen_rewind, and on Rumble at Rasmussen Reports. We stream multiple times a week on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and Getter. Thanks for watching.